It is rare to see someone using a quality build in Elden Ring, especially compared to past Souls games where the variety and weapon choice was considered more valuable. Unfortunately, quality builds have been kind of usurped by strength builds in Elden Ring, due to them being able to do more damage while having a similar amount of variety. But that doesn't mean that quality builds are useless. There's a lot of really cool things that only quality builds can do, and that's what we're going to be going over today. But before we begin, consider liking and subscribing, or else the furry male might do horrible things to you with the Milady. Thank you. Before we get started proper, yes, I'm aware that I have not made anything for a month, to the day, to the minute actually, from having released this. I'm sorry. I have literally gotten sick with something different every single week since that video dropped. And I've also been working pretty hard in the background on some bigger projects. I was hoping for it to be the return video, but it's just taking a lot longer than I had expected. And I want to get back on the grind, okay? I want to get back to the grind set of Elden Ring, because that's what you do with your life when you have things to do. But with that being said, I've been absolutely loving this quality build. One of the things that a quality build can do that a strength build cannot is essentially dip its toes into every single branch of essentially like elemental damage without having to invest a huge amount. Now, obviously there are hybrid builds where it's like strength faith, strength vent, stuff like that. But quality gets more immediate access to these things without having to, say, go to like 22 faith for a strength faith build, for example, or a similar amount for a strength int. And so part of what makes this so nice is, say, like cold, right? Cold, you know, you're doing magic damage, you're doing frostbite build up. It's going to essentially bolster the base scaling while adding an intelligence scaling. So, for example, a weapon like the Lance or the Banished Knight Halberd is going to get double C, a little bit better of a double C scaling than they had initially, as well as an intelligence scaling. Now, granted, you can't really push that far into it unless you're at a higher rune level, but it still certainly does a fine job, even when you don't have any intelligence investment. It still works quite fine. Now, right here, it would appear that the furry male is starting to do horrible things to one such person that is not liked and subscribed. This is an example of what I was talking about earlier. Consider your options. Weigh your options carefully, or else this disgusting thing, he coming after you, and you ain't gonna have no defense against the horrible things he has in store for you. Very scary stuff, to be honest. But another example, with only 11 investment, you get access to some of the hardest hitting holy weapons in the game, that being power stanced Miquellan Knight weapons. Now, what's great about them is that you can go 11 and then put on the talisman to be able to get the rest of the way. That's what I like doing, since you're kind of pressed for stats at meta level. Yeah, if you do that, and then if you use the golden epitaph before sacred blading up, the epitaph is going to make your holy damage higher. And dude, like, you're gonna see it a few times in both the duels and invasions of this video. The Miquellan Knight straight swords hit like a damn freight train, okay? They hit for some good damage. Thank goodness gracious that this based PSGS user just killed the furry male. Now, granted, he does have another lease on life, but that is very good work from him. Good job, soldier. Yeah, it's gonna be able to, like, chunk people for, like, 600 damage per L1, right? And that's before getting, like, consecutive attack bonuses. And honestly, running the Miquellans is a huge reason to use quality in the first place, just because of how high the damage is on these things. Now, when it comes to the invasions, I put all of the losses at the beginning that I felt like putting in here because this was a miserable invasion session because I didn't keep all of them, but I have moments like this where like I made sure I was spamming nothing but the roll button. And it's like, I get it, I don't have much poise, but I don't think that what's about to happen would have changed in the slightest if I had more poise, because all of this was doing above the needed amount. Watch this. Yeah, bro, I'm not about this game right now, bro. So, stuff like that. Amazing jump right there. Stuff like that. And then just true combo to that. Okay. I had this happen like 20 times recording for this character. There were moments I was wearing like actually pretty decent armor, you know, such as the furry male, and it just kept happening over and over. And that is why, if you guys remember the necessity, the Ashes of War that are the biggest necessity video, that's why Endear was at number 1. You've got to be able to deal with when you just get hit by a bazillion things. Now this one right here is special, okay? Watch this. So I have Frost building up right here, and I choose that I'm gonna Ways of Darkness and then go for the Ballast. Look, I get canceled right there. It saves the input, causing me to get blendered like that. Yo, bro. Yo. GG's, man. And then he... this guy, bro. Anyway, quite an interesting one. Got hit stunned, got forced out of using the Ballast, and then almost like a queued roll. It queued the Ballast, which was our demise. I've never had that happen once in my life, so that's quite interesting. Now, when it comes to the invasions and whatnot, something that is very strong for the quality build is lightning-infused weapons that you would normally put on a strength build. Sorry, I think something just fell in the background. That was pretty loud. So, for example, lightning slash Gugs. I know this looks a bit silly. I know that you're probably thinking that I've gone off the deep end, but lightning is the best damage type in this game. And a quality build is pretty much the only... That mash into a Gugs almost worked. That is crazy work from Kevin right here. GG's, dude. But say like the Gugs, for example, or say like the Golem Halberd, if you want to run it as a colossal weapon instead. Run a little bit of Lightning Slash. Their damage is insane. It's phenomenal. And that's another great thing about this build. Even if, you know, you're only running like around 35-ish dexterity, with Millicents you get up to about 40, and, you know, you have helmets to get even higher than that. And most dexterity characters at 125 are going to be stopping around 50. So you're getting pretty close to optimized damage on lightning. It's only about like 20 AR behind, and you're still getting the benefits of like these quality cold weapons as well as Miquellan Night Sword. Not to mention the twin blades that are in our inventory. They're quality infused, but I'm running Flaming Strike, and I don't think Flaming Strike needs an introduction like at all. Like, if you're still playing this game, you know how strong Flaming Strike is. But the first bit of it scales with strength, right? And so, you know, a quality build's not going to be doing quite as much damage as just a full send strength build when it comes to that Flaming Strike damage. But it's definitely the build that's in second place for the best Flaming Strike damage. But you know what a strength build can't do? It can't run good lightning damage at the same time that you're running Flaming Strike, right? So, you know, it's understandable that quality builds don't get as much action as other builds that are just more simple or more optimized, but you still have just a ridiculous amount of options. Now, there are some options that I didn't try in this, and to be honest, I feel like they wouldn't work probably all that well unless I was at, like, level 150. The thing I was talking about with bolstering the, like, dex and strength and dex scaling with cold also goes for bleed and poison. And so there's a lot of weapons that have, like, a double C scaling when bleed or poison infused. Now, the main catch to using those is that, you know, your status build-up's going to be quite bad if you only have 7 arcane. Maybe a poison mist weapon would still work pretty well, but, you know, bleed is going to be a bit of a tall order, most likely. I'll try it in the future, but my gut instinct is telling me that it's not amazing. That guy right there, I was just, for some reason, having a hard time catching him with the Commander Standard, and so I went to the Twin Blade to finish him off. So, like, when it comes to just any build in general, I implore you guys to try out the Twin Blade as a finishing weapon, because it is so good at throwing people off guard with those running R2s, as well as, you know, just that staggered double hitbox being so dangerous if your opponent either has little poise or little health left. Thank you, dog. I appreciate that, dog. The little bit of... Not even little bit, just a lot of bit of damage you just did to me right there. I appreciate that. So yeah, try out Twin Blades for finishing weapons, other than just, like, poise chipping and whatnot. Worked out quite well right there for me. But that actually gives us a pretty good sort of, like, segue into some of the other really awesome options for quality. Commander Standard gets a B in Strength and a D in Dex. It's, you know, you do run it on Strength builds. You know, it has a stronger Strength scaling than Dex, but when a weapon has a B in one and then a D in the other, it still does really good damage on quality builds. And so, like, for one of our offhand weapons, we're running the Ice Rind Hatchet. You can see that on my waist right now. That's got a D in Strength and a B in Dex. And it still is doing really good damage because it almost sort of... Not really, I don't know the actual math behind it. This might be a little inaccurate. But it effectively equals out to having a double C scaling. It's not too far off from that. Which is... Jar Cannon moment right there, aiming nowhere near the the ridge right there and still exploded. You know how it is with the Jar Cannon. Yeah, and the really cool thing about Commander Standard and the Ice Rind Hatchet is that you don't have a whole lot in the way of, like, Ash of War. You know, you're not using, like, Flaming Strike on a Banished Knight Halberd, for example. But the Commander Standard does more damage while also being a lot longer. Okay, so using that as, like, a hard swap to kill someone that's trying to roll away, or just running Halax or Haldag with it is really useful. And it's, like, a pretty cool, like, sort of trade-off that you do. It's like, sure, your Ash of War is pretty much like you don't have one just about, but you get this weapon that's really, really long and hits a little bit harder than the status quo. And the same thing goes for the Ice Rind. If I were to quality infuse a hand axe, the Ice Rind is doing 3 more AR on my stat spread, and it is a little bit longer. And the Frostbite's not a huge deal. If I swap to the Great Stars, which I'll get to in a little bit, that could actually be quite helpful for, you know, frostbiting with that, but it's not a whole lot of Frostbite buildup on its own. It would be more effective if I was running a Cold Banished, but I wanted to make use of the benefits of the Commander Standard. We just kind of have the longest and some of the hardest hitting options at the sacrifice of the Ashes of War. Now right here I'm holding another great option for this build. Well, I was holding it. Milady. Milady has fantastic damage on quality. So good, in fact, that I was running a Dex build, a few months back, and I got better damage on quality when two-handing than keen infusing it. It does pretty damn good damage on a quality build. And so I like running that. I wasn't using any greases in this video, but like you could put, say, like lightning or rock greases on it based on your opponent, based on if you can hit them or not. As well as, you know, the Milady just being amazing with Swords Dance, for example. Like, that just transforms the weapon into an absolute beast. And I'm going to make a video about it here soon, either this week or next week. Ice Rind plus Milady. It's a little bit disgusting, okay? A teensy bit disgusting. Now, before I get into any more weapons, these collection of invasions that I've had at this point in the video are a perfect example of just, we're in hell right now. There's Jesus is throwing lightning bolts at us. This guy over here is shooting the moon at us, but the host really thinks he can mash out of the Miquellans, and that's something you gotta know as the host and Phantom. You cannot mash through Miquellans. You will lose every last ounce of your HP, okay? And that's part of the reason why it's so valuable for invasions, is that it is beyond frustrating when someone mashes out a hit stun. And there is nothing quite like, not just any weapon, but a fast weapon, a fast setup, being able to deny the mash out a hit stun. That's a great feeling. Not so great feeling is that guy using the Midra spell right there. That was an insane amount of frenzy buildup that he was able to take before getting frenzied right there. Pretty crazy. But yeah, man, the Milady is doing big numbers for us. This is once again another bullet hell invasion, because that's all Elden Ring is. And that's why I like swapping to the jar cannon so much. Now, I didn't have my save backed up, or I would be using... Sniping's a good job, mate. I would have been using the golem arrows on a golem bow. That's another great thing about quality builds, is that you have very good golem bow damage. Not quite as good as strength, but not too far behind it either. But essentially, you need a way. You need a way to be able to deal with people who just shoot stuff at you ad nauseum, right? And that's kind of the irony of invasions in this game, is that it's called invasions. It implies that you are the aggressor. No. They can't hit each other, and there's like a 90% chance that one of them is going to be shooting shit at you. You gotta run as the invader, which is just very epic. I actually cut out like 4 minutes of me running through the level of this one right here, and the host is just cooked on arrival, pretty much. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just let them play the level some, because one Phantom died, one was somewhere else, and the host was just ripe for the pickings. So, oftentimes, like, my Chad chin, my jawline, tries to force me to be aggressive against 3 people, and I get absolutely smoked for it. The true answer to invasions is be annoying right back. You have to shoot from a distance. You have to mitigate risk. At least if you're concerned with like your win rate and stuff like that. If not, then just go right ahead, be a Chad, and use one-handed twin blade as a roll catch. But the last thing I wanted to talk about before we get to the video outro is going to be the cold great stars. I almost forgot what they were called for a second. So, Great Stars is one of those weapons that is cold. It's going to have a quality scaling when cold. It's going to have double C. But the Great Stars, if you'll remember, is a weapon that has a very unique effect. Not on death, but on hit, Very interesting Vow of the Indomitable right there. On hit, you heal 1% of your HP plus like 10 or something like that. If you have Waves of Darkness on your Great Stars, it applies to the pulsing waves. And if you have it Frostbite infused like we do, the waves build up Frostbite as well. So your Waves of Darkness isn't doing as much damage as, say, if they were magic infused and you had a lot of intelligence. But you're getting serious life swing and utility from it being on a cold Great Stars. It's probably also useful on other builds too, even if it's not quality. But if you actually decide to use the Great Stars as an actual weapon, then it being on this quality build is going to feel quite nice because it'll continue to do quite good damage. That's something I wouldn't be opposed to in the future. Very nice parry right there. GG, sir. But making another Warhammer video, like, I think people sleep on Warhammers big time. Like, they're so much better than Great Clubs have been in, like, any of the past Souls games. Other than maybe Dark Souls 2, maybe. I don't know about that one. Don't have enough experience. Look at this. Bank, bank! And you can see it healing us a little bit up there in the top. And the crazy thing about that heal, too, is that if you're hitting 2 or 3 people with the pulses, you get healed for all of them getting hit. So you could end up getting healed like a good 200 or 300 HP by landing a Waves of Darkness with Great Stars. I almost called it Gravy Stars. I don't even know why I'm talking about food right now. I just ate. But yeah, with that being said, I look to be active again. Sorry for being gone so long. I'm working on some huge projects that I think you guys are going to love once I'm done with them. That guy literally had the explosion tier in his physic, and me shooting him caused him to blow up. Like, I mean, he was going to blow up anyway, but like, he just got like wombo comboed. I didn't even notice that before. That's so funny. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? But yeah, I do apologize that I've been MIA. Hopefully this track of getting sick over and over and over is going to end soon, and I hope to see you guys around. I have quite a bit in the store, in my mind to make as well. So, with that being said, enjoy these amazing mashes and this amazing fat rolling, and I will see you guys in the future. Peace. Alrighty, so I want to show you guys kind of what's going on with the build. So over there on the side you can see the stats. Let me do this real quick to make that actually what it is. So I know 55 is a bit weird considering most people just run 60 at meta level. We are kind of staving this off a little bit when we go for the Oath of Vengeance. The quality build at the meta level is one of the best advantage enjoyers of Oath of Vengeance, so very good on this build. So I use this at the beginning of fights a lot of the time. Then when it comes to our inventories, I'll show you what's going on. This is the diagonal inventory that I always do, but I color coded it and I made it to where it is completely vertical for the most part, which I'm very happy with. So greens and browns, we got mostly reds, mostly yellows and golds, and then all of our muted colors out at the fringes. This works for me personally. I think it's a really good inventory. And then when it comes to this one here, the center three are predominantly fashion. Now this one over here at the side, when I wear bull goats, gets 89 poise, which is great for Shamshir backswing, among other backswings as well. And then this one over here is just my other favorite fashion other than the knight armor, right? As a swap down, we always have access to the furry mail, right? For whenever you need to look like this. And then one tick up, we always have light roll. Light roll can be very valuable in escaping frame traps as well as fighting mages. Mages do not have a good time at all against passive, or even aggressive for that matter, light roll. So I don't recommend using this fighting other players. You will make them angry unless you are trying to make them angry. So, if that's your purpose, then go right ahead. We have our 3 camos on the side. We have our Rakshasas on this side as well. And then all the way at the top, as a left trigger press, we have full royal remains. And then at the bottom, we have the crimson stuff in the chest and headpiece slot. For the rest of it, we have the briars as these two to kind of round it out. And what's interesting about this is that, say something like this right here, as you jump, you're breaking it, but for some reason the briar armor doesn't do that. You still break things on the way down if you're too close to it, like that right there. Okay, it's kind of hard to show. It kind of depends on the geometry of what you're jumping on. But like, say this candle and this right here, like, you can jump very easily up onto this right here if you are wearing a piece of briars, right? So, very good in my opinion. And then I've been doing this type of inventory for a while now. We always have Waves of Darkness as our Get Off Me tool. It being on Great Stars is very interesting because the waves heal you. Essentially, Great Stars heals about 1% of your HP plus a little bit every single time that you hit somebody. And if you're hitting multiple people with those waves, it's going to be healing you. So it gives you a chance of, say, surviving attacks that you wouldn't otherwise with that health swing, as well as those waves from Waves of Darkness being able to frostbite, which is very nice. Over here is shields per usual. Over here is utility as well. We have our range stuff here down at the bottom. This line right here is specifically going to be our offhand weapon. And then this is going to be our main hand weapons. Now, the swap up, this is to be able to quickly get to either Halax or Halbag, right? And then if we go one down, if we've poise chipped or we just see someone that has really low poise, we're able to tear them a new one with Twin Blade. So with that being said, I think that this is a very cool build. I know it's not optimal and all that jazz, but in terms of how I enjoy the game, it's optimal. Another thing worth mentioning, once you become the furry male, 40/40, right? So very good in my opinion. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.